how to disrupt the program, this is where you dumping the garbage in at.
Right.
It's the breach in the wall. You're giving it to somebody as a thought form based on your character and disposition.
Mm.
Right? So they sitting there and they listening to you talk your talk, but you influencing them to get the engram in by inferring what you believe and let their mind take it from there and they can slightly twist it to fit their own narrative.
Right.
Because they still got to fill in the blanks.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So when the understanding of how it works becomes known to the people, it make it easier to see through the deception. The problem is that when they first see it, they don't believe that they seeing what they seeing. When they exactly what you see, the level of corruption you see is worse than that. No matter how bad you think it is, it's worse. The level of human trafficking that you think it is, it's worse.
Mm-hmm.
It's so much worse than what they doing in their adrenochrome factories and underground torture cities. Right? It's so much worse because our mind, the regular person with a good, generous heart, they mind don't think people think that wickedly.
Right.
But all it is the extreme opposite of the good and the good people.
Mm-hmm.
And you got to have the law opposites in the realm of polarity. Right? The polarity comes in, and now we're talking about what basically call your, right, severity and mercy. Why do they call them severity and mercy? Because you learn between the buffer and the stressor. The mercy is the thing you want to move toward. It's the buffer. And the stressor is the stuff you want to move away from.
Right.
Right? And that's the stressor.
Right.
So if you want to teach somebody something, you expose them to both of them repeatedly, and they 9 out of 10 gonna pick the right one based on what they trying to do.
Indeed. Rod, I want to ask you, in terms of the veil being thin, and people can feel certain things that they didn't feel. I notice sometimes when I wake up, Rod, when my spirit returns to this realm, sometime when I wake up from it could be an intense dream, or it could just be a certain type of sleep, and I wake up and I got this eerie feeling, and I'm like, and I feel like I'm still in between worlds, and I feel like I got a lot of control over this realm because I'm like Neo in the Matrix almost. It's like that first hour or some shit like that. I want to know that feeling. Is that going to be like a all day feeling for us? The more the veil thins, like we're sort of like this eerie in between world feeling where we're totally not here. Is that how we would describe that feeling when the veil gets extremely thin and the worlds merge?
Well, we all have inner talents, either skills that we develop or talents that we brought from past lives that we was born doing, right? The lifting of the veil is about the awakening of the mind. So the mind going through the Kali Yuga, the dark state.
Wait, hold up, Rod. They saying our mics are going in and out. Listen, family, I hear Rod fine. How is it with y'all, the mic situation? So both me and Rod are breaking up.
That could be the YouTube.
The sound is bad. Hey, Rod, let's both go out and come back in.
Okay.
See if that helps. All right. Yeah. Rod, you hear me, my brother?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
I hear you fine. Yeah. Look, people are saying I was good. So it's just some people. Then it's not every. Okay. All right. Yeah. It's just some of y'all. All right. Y'all good? Okay. All right, Rod. Go ahead, my brother.
What was we on?
Yeah, I'll ask you that question about waking up and having that eerie feeling the first hour I'm awake, where I feel like I'm in between worlds, but that feeling doesn't last the whole day. It's just for that first hour I'm awake, And I want to know, is that feeling something that we would experience throughout the course of the entire day? Because the veil is so thin and the worlds are more joined together.
So the reason why it's the first hour after you wake up is called a serotonin response.
Serotonin response. Okay.
Right. Now remember, during the day, your serotonin gonna convert to melatonin.
Uh,
As you move through your day, the melatonin is gonna be reconverted back into serotonin. Right? It's gonna be feeding you back through your endorphins as serotonin, the happy hormone. Right? But once you done went through the course of the day and you use it almost all up, you have to use your sleep to build your serotonin levels by converting the melatonin back into serotonin. You get me?
yeah.
Okay, now it's the same when you waking up. You gonna have that serotonin rush when you first wake up
Uh-huh.
because you coming out of you ever see when they tranquilize one of those elephants and they give them the shot to wake them up? That sucker be laying there and then he just pounce up like he was never down.
Right, right, right.
Right, that's the serotonin response.
Ah.
So it gives you that rush of energy for the day, but you can carry the energy if you practice carrying the energy throughout the day. It'll just be natural. You have to first study it. What do I experience in it? Once you can identify all of what you're experiencing in that feeling, then you can practice it any time of the day until you make it into a habit. And then you'll be able to have that sensation as long as you know you gotta feel this way, you gotta be thinking this, you gotta be disconnected from this bullshit over here and disconnected from that bullshit, and I feel like I'm free. I feel like I'm floating through heaven.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You can keep that energy all day. You can use it. They call it shifting to the zone. This is when you learn to use your focus energy to put it into the investment of accomplishing the goal. You go into the zone.
Mm.
You heard about the athletes that go into the zone, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's what they're talking about. It's the same thing. But when you live in your challenging life, you will always have the serotonin response that you stepping into the combat zone. You building up the energy, you burning off the excess, you exchanging the energy equally, and this is how you maintain the balance in your serotonin melatonin ratios. And then the side effect is to give you this feeling that this is the best feeling I ever had. I could take on anything.
Mm.
Right. Here's strong, I take on anyone. But it's the energy exchange that's taking place through you love the life you live, so you create more of that so that you can have more of a loving life. I
Right.
tell the warriors, turn your war story into a love story.
Oh, okay.
That's the reason you're here. But for the gardeners, right, I tell them to turn their gardening story into a love story.
Right.
It's the same principle. Whatever story you live in at the end, you want to turn it into a love story. Right? Because once you turn it into a love story, you change all of the negative meanings of life to work for the positive outcome of concluding on a love story.
Mm.
So you have like watching a love story in a movie. You got
Right.
to have the meeting, the introduction, the build up. Then you got to round out to the finale.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's a love story.
Mm-hmm.
You got to look at your life. You went through this. I came up from out of that. I moved over here and I moved out of that. And then you find the love story in it.
Mm. Rob, with the veil getting thin, they said when the veil was thin before, people would see all types of creatures that we hear about in books. I want to ask you, Rob, you ever had experiences with fairies and stuff like that? You know how we hear about
All the
fairies?
time.
So yeah, what's your experience? Damn, you said
Listen,
that. You said all the goddamn. I didn't expect you to say. Oh,
look, brother,
what
look,
was
remember I
that?
told you before, I said, in this part of the earth realm where
Uh-huh.
we at now, in this reality, nobody's allowed to come in a mythical form. You remember me telling you that?
Yes, you told me that plenty of times. Yes, indeed.
Right. They look human because they take on a human form. The fairies, the gnomes, the water sprites, the fire sprites, they take on human bodies in the realm of the humans because we the highest evolved creatures, closest to God walking the earth. And when they come in out of the mythical plane, that's what they call it. Because this is where all of the myths is kept alive. The energy just transfer into the human arena so we can play mortal humans.
Mm-hmm.
But all of them still there. Your unicorns, your fairies, your leprechaun is the Bantu peoples that was living in Ireland when the Catholic Church was murdering them all. That's why they say they killed the snakes because the women wore snake armbands and the men wore the snake headband.
Mm-hmm. Mm.
He didn't kill shit. Ain't there no snakes. And wasn't no snakes in Ireland. There's no history of snakes in Ireland. There's no
Mm.
fossil record of a snake ever being in Ireland.
Damn.
So what snakes was all clear? St. Patrick killing then? If it ain't never really been no snakes there, and he was made a saint by the Catholic Church for killing snakes, what snakes is he killing? What kind of serpents is these he's killing?
Right. Damn.
They're called Nagas. Nagas.
And that's a
So
that's a people.
that's the ancient royal families of the earth, the Nagas. Their descendants is the Amaru Khans of the Southwest Americas, moving into Peru and Bolivia and all that stuff.
Right.
Going down into the monkey village in South America when it was the journey to the west of Hanuman, Sun
Mm-hmm.
Wukong journey to the west, right, where the Buddha sent him to get the Buddhist scrolls.
Mm-hmm.
Right, so when then you see the monkey cities in South America, you see the monkey and the Nazca lands that's native to another part of the world, right? And it's on there with the phoenix. We see the symbol of the baboon representing Tahuti and Kenya.
Mm-hmm.
The monkey man is the Sako mile. When your elders kept putting these certain symbols there, what was they trying to tell you? Have you ever asked yourself, if I was my ancestor and I painted that, what would I be trying to get my descendants to understand? Because then yourself gonna have to make you look at it from a perspective as if you wrote it.
As if you wrote it. Right.
And once you look at it as if you wrote it and you was trying to get a message into the future, you think how many generations, and then you'll know how the evolution of time will cause the message to be distorted.
Right.
Right? And the distortion comes in during the Kali Yuga, which is the dark phase. This is the moon cycle of a 24,000 year cycle. The global warming is a sign that there's a sun cycle returning.
Mm.
And the moon cycle, a lunar cycle, which is a cold cycle, leaving. So when the sun cycle comes in, brings the golden age with it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So a look at the lifting of the veil as in the transition from the night sky to the early morning sky.
Mm-hmm.
And the mirror is that orb that's coming over the horizon is you.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And then you just broke through Kepler. Now you rolling across the sky, across the Horus horizon. And we know that when Horus is done rising, he's our 10.
Mm.
He is the eagle in full view of all of the eagle clans. He's the falcon in full view of all the falcon clans. He's the great hawk that's visible to all of the hawk clan in the sky at one time, but all it is the sign of a solar flare.
Mm-hmm.
All of the bird clans tell it the same way. It's the bird with the phoenix wings curling up to the sun,
Mm-hmm.
or the hawk wings, or the falcon wings, depending on which culture is telling the story, depending on which bird is it representing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right? Which takes you to the great thunderbird, Quetzalcoatl. Right? The Quetzalcoatl thunderbird means the bird with the booming voice. Right? But we know that the booming voice moniker was taken by Enlil, the god of the skies, and he's also the lord of the booming voice. He mean Lord. Right? Enlil mean the booming voice, or the booming sound of thunder. So they make it have a dual meaning.
Right.
Flip the mirror.
Indeed. Right. What all, no, good. You're still talking good. I'm sorry.
Good.
With all this water that people are reporting, the flooding, I've seen New York, water's been coming down extremely hard in Georgia the last month. I mean, there was one time I think it rained like 14 days in a row out here. And right before our Stone Mountain trip that we did about 2 weeks ago, I mean, it poured raining the night before. We always hear about the floods and when the worlds are ending. Is this water? Some people, I've heard people on TikTok say that this is etheric water. This is water coming from beyond this realm. Is there anything unique about the flooding or the rain or the water that's coming down now versus the rain, the flood, and the water that we've seen maybe 20 years?
The pattern is unique. If you look at the pattern, you would say those are aqueducts. Somebody's opening aqueducts.
What's an aqueduct for somebody who doesn't know, Rod?
It's like an underground dam that holds a large portion of water.
Yeah.
Right. Some of the flood locations has almost zero rain, and it's normally dry. The aqueduct's been there for thousands of years, if not millions. They tell us about the ones in other parts of the world, but they don't tell us about the ones over here. You got to remember, they didn't start studying anthropology and archaeology over here until the 1800s, where they've been 200-300 years prior overseas. They never, when they come with the Out of Africa theory, the Out of Africa theory is contingent upon Africa being the first place that they studied for ancient artifacts of bone. But America didn't start becoming, I think it was one of them signers of the Declaration was the first archaeologist. And then you had another guy, he was part of some other organization that was the first anthropologist. Right? So they wasn't even studying over here when they came up with the Out of Africa theory. No, there was not a sufficient study of the Americas published with peer review for it to even be considered as part of the discussion with the Out of Africa narrative. But we have artifacts that's older than people possibly could imagine. Explain that if we wasn't the first. Right, so we trying to get the point across that the oldest contract on the planet is the gender of the earth being feminine, and that the close of each age have to be closed with returning the earth back to the divine feminine, not just the feminine, the divine feminine. This the evolved sisters. This is why we always talk about Big Mama. The ones who have children with sibling rivalries that she's learned how to mediate the conflict between them to make them grow up as a collective strong unit. Them the ones we talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Where the other ones fail miserably because their sons grow up killing each other. Right? Because they don't teach the family unity. That's how you tell the difference in who people are. You got a spectrum by which the family unity is even being discussed. Into what degree? Right? So we have to get back to understanding that who we are and when these stories was being written, they had nothing to do with us. We know history was written by the victims. We know that because they told us that history was written by the victims.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody ever disputed it or proved it to be an invalid statement. Therefore, it became a maxim.
Mm-hmm.
It's a standing truth that's never been disproven. Right? So we know that the truth is so valuable that they're going to guard it with a circle of lies because Winston Churchill told us.
Mm-hmm.
Head of state during World War II. Right? So what is the lie that's so valuable that they got to conceal? If you want to conceal as the victor who the rightful heirs is to a territory so you can maintain your conquest, then the secret that you want to keep is that these people own that land. Because once we overthrow. But as long as we can get them to believe we belong on their land, then we can get them to let us stay on their land for free. Matter of fact, we can even charge them for letting us stay on their land. Read that about
No, for real, yeah.
it.
Wow. Rob, we talk about, I believe, like I told you earlier, I remember watching Bobby Hemmett talk about when the Earth fell into 3D, and I believe this is around the Atlantis period, right? Was it around that period?
They did live through these cycles
Which
billions of times. These are cycles.
okay.
Just
Yeah,
like how many times in the history of the world have we went through the 4 seasons?
yeah, exactly. Many
It's
times.
the same thing. It's just on a different scale.
Rob, when did this veil first form? This veil that I'm sure there was one time when there was no veil at all. In the ancient books,